Hello and welcome to the Ucommerce 9.5 preview event. Today we're taking a look at the promotions apps, the new promotion app that we've been working on for the past milestone. That would be the last quarter. I am super excited about what we're going to see today. The team has worked incredibly hard on bringing this new preview app to you, so you can check it out and start providing us feedback on it. Big thanks goes out to the entire team, Adina and Anna, who's making all this possible. They're behind the scenes right now, controlling cameras and making everything awesome for all of us. And of course, to members of the product team who are joining us today to demo and talk more about the behind the scenes processes. Also, thank you to all of you who are joining us today. I know you're busy people who have taken time out of your schedules to be with us today. So we're definitely going to make it worth your while. We have attendees from all over the world today, so from 18 different countries we have sign-ups, so that's really exciting. It's awesome to be able to reach all of you in with this stuff, so thank you very much for being here today. Let's dive right into the agenda here. So what we're doing is we are taking a look at the promotion app, the behind the scene. Our UX lead Urte will join us in a moment to give you a peek at how we actually arrived at where we are today, how the research we're doing with partners and clients is actually turned into an actual product. Then Louise, our senior front-end developer, will join us and do a demo for us. And at this point, I'm going to need you all to cross your fingers so we make sure the demo gods are on our side. She will be showing you preview software, so I'm going to need your help on this one. And then finally, I'll come back and I'll give you an update on the roadmap and on our patch release that we're releasing today as well. Before we go, there's some practical information. The toilets, you know where they are. They're probably in your vicinity. And of course, if you have any questions, public chat is right there at the right-hand side of your screen. So if you have questions, anything you want to comment on, please feel free to drop a comment in there. Members of the team are standing by, as it were, sort of ready to answer, and some of the questions we'll also answer live. So after each segment, there'll be a Q&A where some of the questions you post to chat will be answered. And before we get into the actual content here, I'd like to sort of get to know you all. So if you wouldn't mind, in the chat right now, please take a moment to write, the city and the country you're from, just to give you a sense of where everybody's from. It's going to help us get a feel for who's here today. So if you would do that, please, that would be awesome. Thank you very much. I see the comments coming in already. That's beautiful. Alrighty, while you're doing that, I'm going to sort of slowly proceed to the next slide and talk a little bit about the new promotions app that we are previewing today. So, back in, it's been many, many years since we launched the marketing foundation of Ucommerce. That was back in Ucommerce 2, and we are releasing Ucommerce 9.4.2 today. So quite 7 major releases since then. So the very first version of the marketing foundation saw the light 7 major versions ago. And what we found over the years is that it has a lot of the inherent flexibility that a lot of our clients and partners are looking for. So that's great. However, it does have some weaknesses, and Urte will talk more about that. One of the things that we decided to do for Marketing Foundation was to actually rename it. So it's now the Promotions app. The reason for that was basically because the word marketing is something that CMSs often use for creating landing pages and marketing initiatives and things like that. So we found that when clients look at that terminology in an e-commerce context and a content management context, it can be confusing as to who does what. So today we're renaming the Marketing Foundation to be the Promotions app instead, to deal with everything discount. So we're confident that will sort of eliminate at least some of that confusion right there. One of the other things that I wanted to talk about with the Promotions app before we get into the details is a lot of the TLC that we're putting into this. You'll see a lot of details in there. And one of the little things that we're doing behind the covers that will give you some benefits down the line is the fact that all of the UIs that we're creating today are creating using one standard. For those of you who know, That standard is called definitions, and basically it is our way of describing fields and data that goes into a UI. And every new UI within the Condo stack of all the new UIs that we've been shipping so far have been based on definitions. Not in the sense that you can control the fields and all that for everything, but that's the path that we're going. And it means that we can put extra TLC into each and every little UI component. So when Urte does her thing and designs a new piece of UI for you to use, and when Louise and the rest of our front-end team later goes ahead and implements that, it means that we can invest more in each and every little detail within Ucommerce, because whenever we build something, it will be that thing across the entire platform that handles that responsibility. So instead of creating multiple versions of almost the same thing, we're creating one thing, and that one thing will be used everywhere, so we can invest more in the individual pieces. Okay, so that's the promotions app that we're going to take a look at in a little bit. Before we do, though, I'd like to show you the roadmap that sort of pertains to this bit. So in last quarter, in Q1 of this year, we shipped Ucommerce 9.5, which introduced horizontal scalability, enterprise level scalability for Ucommerce for the first time ever. We're really excited to see customers starting to adopt that. And if you haven't had a chance to look at 9.4 and the awesome scalability and performance of that thing, please take a look at it. It is quite amazing. What we also did is we released a brand new stores app built on the same principles that we're taking a look at today. It is able to manage many more channels than before, so up to 2,048 stores or sales channels within one installation of Ucommerce, which is quite something. And of course, a bunch of fixes and things. What we're focusing on today is Q2 and Q3. So Marketing Foundation, which is now known as the Promotions app, is such a big piece of Ucommerce that it was too much to handle in one milestone. So in Q2, the current milestone that we're previewing today, our focus was to establish a new workflow for working with promotions and making sure that we nail it, basically. For Q3, we'll wrap up the Promotions app and make it available to you. What we're going to do in Q3 is basically to finalize how you work with campaigns, the lists that tie everything together, and we're going to include the final promotional rules that we need to support the full range of discounts that you're used to. I'll talk more about Q4 in a little bit, but that's essentially what's going on. So we're previewing our Q2 work now, so we can start getting your feedback on it. And please take some time to let us know what you think at feedback@ucommerce.net. So that's the email that we use to gather feedback there. Okay, so rather than talking about it, I want to hand it over to Urte, our UX lead, who's here to talk about the behind the scenes of how we actually arrive at the types of UIs that we do. So Urte, take it away and let's check it out.
Hi everyone. So welcome to Behind the Scenes of UX. I'm Urte, UX designer here at Ucommerce, and my role is to focus on end users' needs and create awesome experience for them. So today I would like to talk a bit about how we have embedded UX in the company, and as well as what you're probably looking forward to a bit more, our new Promotions app. I will share a bit behind the scenes of it, and as well why we have went with certain choices. So before we get into the details, I would like to give a little overview how and when UX works. Even though it is a part of product team, we cannot really work in parallel with the rest of the team. We work a quarter or two ahead. It really depends on the complexity. And as you can see on the roadmap, currently we're finishing Q2, as Søren mentioned, and we will be jumping in the Q3 with campaigns. However, I'm already doing research and doing some sketches on Q4, which is order management system. So after working on the Marketing Foundation, which we call now Promotions app, we have realized that the design process is not as agile and transparent in the sharing matter with the rest of the company as we would like it to be. And UX was working a little bit in a silo for too long, and we didn't really utilize the expertise and knowledge of other departments. And what we would like to avoid when sharing our final solution with developers is that ta-da moment, when they see it for the first time and they don't know what the heck is happening, so we will definitely avoid those. But what has changed since then? So for working on orders within different stages of design thinking process, we started to integrate different departments. And as an example, we can take sales team. And you might think, how sales can be useful throughout the design process. Well, massively. Like, they are in contact with clients and can connect me with relevant people during the research process. And that's what they did when I was researching Orders app and trying to understand the users' needs of this section of Ucommerce. Working across teams and getting multi-perspective feedback ultimately will help us create a better product, which is beneficial not only for us, but for our partners and especially our users. So let's get into the revamp of Marketing Foundation and talk about the research of it. Before Louise shows the preview, I would like to go behind it and show our findings and reasonings of certain choices. So before we started picking the promotions app apart, we already had one goal set up, which is updating the interface to the new one. And besides that, we needed to figure it out, what are the usability problems within and how can we fix it. So in order to do that, we talked to several people and asked them questions like, what was their experience? How did they work with it? Is there any problems they ran into while working in it? Any frustrations? And as well, we took into consideration written feedback at the one that Søren mentioned before, feedback@ucommerce.net, and look into what you have sent to us and what is relevant and how can we work with it. So it was quite a long process, and once we felt that we have enough comments and data to lean on, we rolled up our sleeves and dug into the issues and severity of each comment we have received. Since our scope is pretty narrow, we had to prioritize what we can include into this upgrade and what we have to postpone. So alongside to the interface update, we decided to tackle two other issues that would make a major difference. So one of them was people telling us that the workflow of setting up a promotion is rather complicated and it is pretty difficult to understand, especially when you are a new user. And second to that, that stuck out quite a bit, was hearing that some people found the terminology a little bit confusing at certain points, and that you have to be extra mindful when picking and selecting, which we would like to avoid. So before I'll show you the new workflow, I would like to go into the terminology change so there would be no confusions later on. Ucommerce used to be very developer-oriented company. It still is. However, we're trying to bridge the gap between it and the users of the platform. That is why some of the terms do not seem to be aimed for the digital merchants, rather to the developers. And we found it essential that terminology would resemble users' jargons as much as possible, and it would be clear and obviously user-friendly. So a couple of examples of hierarchy point of view. So now the campaign and promotion management section is called the promotions instead of marketing, as we already mentioned. And therefore, naturally, campaign item properties are switching to promotion properties. Then in the same section, we have this real mouthful, allow additional discounts if this discount is awarded, which is pretty difficult to change to something a little bit more clear. However, we went with allow following promotions to be combined with this one. Hopefully, it sounds a little bit more clear, and as well, it talks about the promotions rather than just the discounts. And we have enable button, which is just switches to published as well. It just sounds a little bit nicer than just having it enabled. Then we have sections. Act is switching to criteria, since they have to, the customers have to set aside certain criteria when they are ordering stuff or buying. And we have this little section below where you have to select what criteria they have to fulfill. So previously we had customers must meet all targets, or customers must meet any target, which sounds very familiar, and there is a risk of accidentally picking the wrong selection without even noticing. So currently the options are a little bit more split out and are phrased in a cleaner manner, explaining exactly what your customer must do and which part it relates to. So it just says all of the criteria below, or at least one of the criteria below. And last but not least is the award, which we switched to discount, as most of the listings are some sort of a discount. So since we covered the most important terminology of the promotions app, let's dig into the workflow. So for the ones that has seen the most recent version of Ucommerce, you probably have noticed that we're slowly shying away from the tree structure and using it, the site as our main navigation. And this app is obviously no exception. And as previously you had to create and manage general information through the site navigation, now you can do it on the page. So the way you create a promotion is changed quite a bit, but a small disclaimer prior, all the details related to campaigns is going to be started working on Q3 as we showed on the roadmap. And some details might alter once we launch it. So just something to have in the back of your head. So this is what happens when you click on the promotions. You are greeted with an overview of the campaigns that the store is running. You can see the status of the campaign, the time frame it's running, and as well how many promotions belong to it. So it's quite a change since you get a little bit of overview and understanding what is happening with your store's campaigns. Then you can either enter already existing campaign or create a new one. But once you enter campaign editor, you can edit all related information with it, like delete, change the time frame, pause it, and as well you can see the overview of the promotions it is running, and as well their status. And lastly, we have the promotions editor. That's what we gathered to see today. And in the first section, you have basic properties where you have two switches where you either publish the promotion or let it to be combined together with the other promotions. Then we have a criteria section. Very first, you have an option to pick what criteria the customer must meet. And then there's a drop-down to pick what type of criteria they have to meet. For example, they have to spend a certain amount or insert a promo code, whatever you need. And the last section is a discount, where again, in the drop-down, you pick what discount your customer will get, which is free shipping, 15% discount on order, or what as well, what your company needs. And so this was a very quick look into campaigns and promotions. But before I let you go, I would like to encourage you to contact me at usp@ucommerce.net or write to feedback@ucommerce.net if you have anything to share or have any feedback, or in general, maybe you want to just have a chat about Ucommerce. I would be more than willing to get in contact with you. And that's it for me. I guess back to you, Søren. Thank you for listening.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Urte. I think one of the super cool things about what Urte just showed you is that as a company, it enables us to be more in tune with clients and partners than ever before. We've always been a feedback-driven company, but with UX research on board, it's just even more apparent than ever before, and it does enable us to have within the company an ambassador for the client, which is definitely what Urte represents, maybe a more human touch. When a developer I wouldn't call myself a developer anymore, but I used to be. When I did, we have a certain way of thinking about things, and who doesn't know Boolean algebra, for example, right? It's so common. So I think it's good to have like the human touch to really sort of bring the app closer to the people using it every day. Now, there were some questions in chat. So the question is, when will 9.5 be available? And we're targeting the end of Q3 for availability. So we're just coming up on the end of Q2 now, and then after in August, I believe we will ship 9.5 to you. The version that's available today is something I'm going to talk about a little later on in the game, so you know what's there. But it is a maintenance release targeted at bringing out some of the fixes and changes and improvements that we wanted to get out, so we don't have to wait for them. So I hope that answers the questions. Alrighty, cool. One other thing that's pretty interesting about the work that Urte and UX is doing is that, you know, I'm not sure it was you all picked up on it, but she mentioned that she's running ahead quite some time ahead of the product team, and it's quite a schizophrenic place to be, because Urte basically needs to be ready with mock-ups and research and things like that a good few quarters before the product team actually arrives and is ready to start implementing, which is quite interesting, because at the same time she has to reconcile the notion of having to rejigger some UI designs and things that she created, you know, a few design sprints left. So that requires a pretty awesome person to do, and fortunately Urte is more than up to the task. So that is awesome. Thank you again, Urte. Next up, and this is where I need your help, is Louise Strøh, who is our one of our front-end developers, senior front-end developer on the engine team, and she is going to give us a demo of the preview version of Ucommerce, which will be available by the end of Q3, so in a quarter's time. So Louise, please take it away and show us all the awesomeness.
Hi, my name is Louise and I'm a senior front-end developer here at Ucommerce. Today I'm going to give you an introduction to the new promotions UI that we're currently working on. But first, let's start by having a look at how to create a promotion today. So here under the marketing node, we have the current UI for creating a promotion, which is today called campaign item. The campaign item is what holds the information about each individual promotion. Let's try and create a new campaign item under our summer sale campaign. And we'll call it Summer Deal 20% off. So by default, each campaign item consists of two sections. Campaign item properties, where you configure the general information about the campaign item. You select the definition, which makes it possible to customize the properties you want to associate with the campaign item. You might, for example, want the digital merchant to be able to add a banner to the campaign item. For now, let's just keep the default campaign item definition. Next, you're able to toggle whether or not you want the customer to be able to receive multiple discounts per order. So this checkbox indicates if it's possible to combine this discount with other discounts. And in this last setting, you enable or disable your campaign item. In the advertise column, you choose where you want to promote the campaign item. It might be on certain products or categories, or just in general on your store. If several advertised targets are applied, you might want the campaign item to be displayed when the customer is just fulfilling any of the targets, or when the customer is fulfilling all of them. We'll just add our store as target now. In the act column, we are setting up what the customer must actually do in order to get her discount. And again, if you have multiple actions set up, you're able to specify whether any or all of them should be met in order to trigger the discounts. Let's try and add some promo codes. We'll set up a couple of manual. As well as a couple of unique. So the last column here is the award column, and this is what the customer gets when satisfying the previous criteria. So if our customer enters one of the promo codes, we want her to receive 20% of her order. So this is how a promotion is set up in the current UI. Let's have a look at how it's done in the new UI. We'll start by adding a new promotion. As before, we'll just select the default campaign item definition, and we'll call this summer deal 30% off. So here we have our new UI for editing a promotion. As you can see, it's aligned with the rest of the new UI. We have a header with the name and the definition of the current promotion, as well as a more menu, which on click will reveal the secondary actions such as renaming, changing definition, and deleting the promotion. Here to the right, you're able to select language. As today, the first section you are encountering is the promotion properties, which allows you to publish or unpublish your promotion, as well as enable whether or not it should be combined with other promotions. Here we have our criteria section, which is the section that is currently called Act. So this is where we'll set up the criteria that the customer must meet in order to get her discount. We'll choose whether any or all of the criteria needs to be met. And as with the rest of the UI, your changes are saved when you blur the field, and you're able to undo in case you regret. So let's just again try and add a promo code. You now have a small search bar, which makes it easier to find the criterion you need. Let's once more try and generate a couple of manual and unique promo codes. So the interface for adding manual and unique codes has now been nicely separated for a better overview, and you can toggle them here. Let's just start by generating some manual codes. As you can see, I can do this pretty quickly. I just hit enter and my cursor is focused in the promo code name field again. When you have generated your codes, you can click here to get a preview. If you don't want to use all of them, you can just untoggle. When you're satisfied with your changes, you can either click done or go back and create some more. So let's just generate some unique promo codes as well. Once more, you can go to the preview and see the actual codes that you generated. Back in our editor, we now have a summary of total max uses, number of used codes, number of remaining codes, and we're able to download the unused codes. Down here, we have a list with our generated codes. It has been optimized to perform well even with large amounts of data, and that it's lazy loading content as you scroll. Codes you don't need, you can easily remove by toggling them and clicking remove. Last but not least, we have our discount section. This is what is currently called award, and this is what our customer will receive when fulfilling the above criteria. So again, we have our small search bar, so you're able to quickly find the discount you need. And we'll just choose percentage of order again. And that's it. That is how your summer promotion looks like in the new UI.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Louise. Let's see if there are any questions in particular for that. Looks like we are good. So a couple of things to note there. As I started out in the beginning of saying, with the way that we're building the new UIs, we're able to invest more in the individual components because each UI piece is reused throughout the entire platform. And one of the cool things that's just really wonderful to see for me, you know, as a person who's been working with Ucommerce for a long time, is a simple little thing like the search bar that Louise highlighted just now, where as she's entering a new discount, she can just go ahead and search within that search bar. And what's interesting about that is that it came about as part of a different requirement where we needed to support a bunch of price groups. When we're associating a price group to a catalog, we realized that you can sometimes find yourselves in a situation where you have many price groups that you need to associate, and just scrolling through a huge list of thousands of price groups may be a little dumb, to use technical lingo about it. So the search bar was introduced for a completely different purpose, but the control remains the same, and now it's providing value here in the promotions app as well. It's freebie basically because of the way it was constructed, and it's only possible to do because of awesome front-end developers such as Louise and the rest of the team, and it's just super nice to see. Another key thing that I'd like to highlight is lazy loading. Our ability to deal with massive amounts of information. As Ucommerce has matured, what we've seen is Ucommerce applied across bigger and more complex scenarios, and in a lot of cases, those scenarios come with much more data than before. So being able to deal with lots of catalogs, lots of stores, lots of products has been a big focus on our part, and it just shines through even here in the promotions engine where sometimes there's not so much data, but because of the way that we're building out these UIs, we're still getting those benefits across the entire platform. So we only surface the data required in a given situation, and as you move for more, you can either search or scroll through to find the information you want. So really good stuff. Good. Let's see. There's a question actually I see here in chat. So how is the process for custom created marketing extensions? So if you can add new stuff. So it's actually interesting. The promotion engine will be the first example of us introducing extensibility into the Condo UIs. Until now, you can configure and things like that, but for the promotion engine, we know that it's super important that you can hook in your own rules, because discounts are just by their very nature very complicated and very different from customer to customer. So trying to cover the entire range of product discounts can be very difficult out of the box. So extensibility, framework first, is key here. And one of the cool things that we did, just to sort of open up the engine hood a little bit and take a peek inside, is that for each of the individual criteria and discounts, what used to be called ACT and awards, we actually implemented definitions for that. That's how we surface the information to the client. And interestingly, this is intended to become the foundation for which you extend Ucommerce promotion app in the future. Because when you think about it, a new rule for the promotion engine consists of essentially three different things. It consists of a UI, some data, and the rule itself. And by using definitions, you can actually just define the data you want and have the UI follow along. So you can basically just create a definition that represents the data you need for your rule. And then finally, when you're ready, you can write your rule for the promotion engine to execute. So we're actually trying to eliminate 2 steps from extending the promotion app going forward, so you don't have to do so much. In the past, you would have to create a new table, you would have to map that table, you'd have to implement a bunch of different things to make it go. We're hoping to eliminate that, or at least parts of that, to make it even easier to extend the promotion engine. So I hope that answers the question, Alexander. Thank you very much for the demo, and thank you very much to all of you attending the thing here. I feel like you were all going like this because it went swimmingly, so thank you for that. So that's the promotion app, and a little bit about what the design process and what we're thinking about, where we are now and where we're going. Let's take a look at the roadmap just to give you a sense of where we are. So roadmap-wise, we are looking at Q3. So a bunch of questions about when you can get it. So by the end of Q3, which would be in August. So that's when we're hoping to make the new promotions app available for you to try out. It's also important for me to mention that we are looking to support the old UIs for a little bit, because we know you have extensions and things like that, So for a while, you'll be able to run with the old and new UIs at the same time. Unfortunately, it's not possible to have a common extension model across old and new, simply because the technology stacks are so different. So any extensions that you've created on for the old marketing foundation will continue to work. But if you want to use the new UIs, the new promotions app, you will have to re-implement the UI components of that to make it go. A lot of the rules are the same, so a lot of it can be reused, but the UI component will have to be redone. I hope that makes sense. Alrighty. So with that covered, what is actually getting released today? So Ucommerce 9.5 is out, and it's definitely worth checking out. It does not contain the promotion app preview. We're holding that back a little bit until it's a little more mature. But what you'll find in 9.4.2 is a dramatically improved marketing foundation performance experience when you're using it during checkout. So the old marketing foundation got a little bit of a tune-up just to make sure that the engine is as fast as can be for when we release 9.5. What we also did is we introduced some fixes, better support for a scaled Elasticsearch environment. So we introduced Elasticsearch for scaled scenarios where you can support much bigger scenarios, much higher performance with Elasticsearch, and there are some fixes for that to make that even better. We also improved indexing, so the ability to move data out of the back-end system of Ucommerce and into our search indexes, so it's a little more predictable in the way that works, a little faster. We introduced better URL handling, so basically we ran into some scenarios where some special characters like Chinese and Russian was creating some problems around generated URLs, so that's been eliminated. And we have also made a ton of UI improvements within 9.4.2, and there's all sorts of other things. We have the full release notes out, so I encourage you to take a look at that. 9.4.2 is definitely worth checking out. So with that, let's just see if there are any questions for that in particular. Not right now. So I will proceed to the roadmap update. And oh my God, do we have some wonderful stuff in store for you. I'm super excited about what's going on, and we have more people at Ucommerce working on the product than ever before. In fact, we have multiple product teams now, which is just bonkers to hear myself say out loud. So let's just dive into it, shall we? The first bit is, you've seen this already, so there's not so much need to look into that. What I wanted to do was just to add a little bit of a headline to it. So this is the engine roadmap, so the very core bits of Ucommerce. This is where we improve, all the e-commerce capabilities, the UIs, everything that relates to sort of the most basic things of the platform, the things that power everything else. And so Q2, basically we've taken a look at what we've done, and Q3 will continue and wrap it up, and Q4 will move into order management, where we hope to provide a much better experience for working with orders and shipments and payments and all that good stuff. The key requirement here, the key goal of the engine roadmap, is to complete our transition to our new UIs, which has been going on for a while. It takes a lot to build a product as complicated as an e-commerce platform. And the reason we're so focused on bringing these new UIs to fruition is because of .NET Core. We know that we need to go to .NET Core, and it is on the roadmap. But before we can do that, we need to complete the UIs that we've been working on for a while. So everything we do with the engine, every prioritization we make, goes into completing these things faster, so we can get to .NET Core all the faster. And the reason I'll tell you in a little bit, but you can probably guess. So in last quarter, I introduced, along with the rest of Ucommerce, a new mission for us, which is, not exactly new. It's a little bit of old, a little bit of new, and there's also some blue. So you know what? It all works out, right? So our goal with Ucommerce, just to make it absolutely clear, is to create an e-commerce platform that will support mission-critical e-commerce. We want to be in there where with businesses and partners, where e-commerce is a strategic part of the business. So it means the type of partner we would like to work with is one that does e-commerce as a primary piece of the types of solutions that they're doing. It also goes for the clients that we'd like to use Ucommerce. It should be clients who have e-commerce as a core part of their business, not just trying it out over here or playing around, but actually banking on e-commerce as a major part of the business. That's what Ucommerce is and should continue to be. But we don't want to do it for everybody, because we know if we try and be everything for everybody, it's going to fail. So we're targeting only mid-sized merchants. We want to sit right there in the sweet spot, right in the middle of the market. And so we're not targeting the very, very largest corporations in the world, nor the smallest. We're just the middle there, because traditionally that's where Ucommerce has been a good fit, and that's where a lot of the CMSs we support is also a really good fit. And of course, this goes without saying, but I'm gonna say it anyway. We will continue doing it with partners. It is incredibly important to me to stress that everything we do in Ucommerce relies on our awesome partners, our solution partners, who go out every day and implement Ucommerce, because at the end of the day, local partners are much better at creating an e-commerce solution than anybody else. So we want to continue working with partners. We want to enable partners with customer success, with our co-marketing efforts, with everything in there. It is a huge focus of ours to make sure that we provide not just an awesome product, but also an awesome support experience, and that we can help partners actually build more business on Ucommerce by creating co-marketing events and things. It is one of the core things that marketing is doing today. And finally, and this is the new piece, this is something you want to take note of, is we want to do it across websites, apps, systems, and other channels. So when Ucommerce was sort of invented, one of the key innovations was our ability to work with the CMS. We were, if not the first platform in the world to do it, then at least among some of the very first ones. It took us a few years to realize that, so that was a little bit unfortunate. But hey, today e-commerce is much more important than just to transact on a website. E-commerce today is embedded across an entire swath of applications and silos, and we want to enable Ucommerce across all those silos. And that's what the bigger roadmap is all about, our journey towards cloud and headless. So we'll talk about that right now. So the big plan here over the next 3 years is to turn Ucommerce into a headless e-commerce platform, to basically enable all of our awesome capabilities in many different scenarios across different technologies as well. So it doesn't have to be just .NET. So the goal is to create a headless web-based API that can be leveraged in so many more scenarios than what the .NET-based API can today. Having done that, we will transition to build the managed cloud. So it is an option for you to run Ucommerce in an environment that we take care of for you. So you don't have to have the hassle of updating Ucommerce, just setting it up and getting runtime environments and all that. We can take care of that for you. But it is an option. It's not something you have to use. It's something you can use if you choose to do so. The managed cloud is our bet for the future. I believe personally that in 3 to 5 years, you will no longer see software installed locally on a server somewhere. It will all be managed, and we need to sort of move in that direction to stay relevant. Once that's done, we will start transitioning Ucommerce to become a cloud-native platform. So as we're moving into the cloud, we want to take advantage of more and more of the opportunity the cloud presents. So we want to make sure that we run as efficiently as possible in the cloud environment, that we scale better than ever before. And that's basically, the 3-step plan that will take us into the future. So the first 3 years of that, we'll see headless managed cloud. And after that, we will continue down the cloud native path. Let me show you the roadmap to get there. So this is really sort of, it is something really big for us, because the top yellow bar there that you're looking at is the existing engine roadmap that we looked at. That's promotions, orders, everything required to get us to a place where we can support .NET Core and thus move into the cloud. But we wanted to make sure that we do not lose momentum as we move into headless and cloud. And so at the beginning of the year, we received some capital from investors and the owners of the company, so we could start doing more stuff at the same time. And what we are using that capital for is establishing additional product teams. So as you can tell, the second bar there, it says headless team. Basically what we have been up to in the past quarter is establishing a third product team that can work on the new APIs in tandem with the commerce engine, so we do not lose momentum on everything else that we're doing. So the Headless team is fully formed. Last person will join the team on Tuesday, on June 1st, and then we will start the research process with partners to figure out what goes into building an awesome headless web-based API. So we want to get in touch with you, our partners, to figure this out. We want to make sure that we continue to offer Ucommerce with framework first, even in a headless mode, so you continue to have control over the way Ucommerce works. Once we have completed these headless APIs, which will ship piecemeal, so you'll have one API, the second API will ship them as they become available, so you can start leveraging them, and so we can start to get feedback from what we have done. Once we've done that, we will move on to .NET Core, which is super important for us from a strategic perspective, because as we move toward the cloud, it is important that we run as efficiently as we possibly can. And that is what .NET Core promises us to do. And of course, part of the .NET Core story is also Umbraco 9, which is due out in June. We're not going to jump right on the Umbraco 9 bandwagon, and you might ask why. Well, we have been doing CMS integrations since 2008, and we know from experience that when a new CMS version is released, there's a lot of buzz and a lot of excitement about it, but it takes a little bit for it to mature, to become sort of widely used. So what we see when a new major version of a CMS is released tends to be used on smaller implementation as tests to begin with, and then as packages get up to date and things like that, then it starts to move into the more serious, bigger types. Well, they're all serious, but bigger solutions. And so we're thinking the timing will probably be right towards the end of the year, when Umbraco 9 has had a bit of time to settle a little bit, so we have all the extension points we want, so we don't experience so many breaking changes. So that is the goal. What we're also doing near the end of the year is we're establishing a fourth product team to deal with the cloud. And that is super exciting, because what we're doing here is we're essentially bringing in new competencies into Ucommerce that we never had before. We need people who can help us build cloud infrastructure, that can help us manage solutions and do the operations around it. And that's basically what the cloud team will be all about. It's about building infrastructure so we can take the headless API version of Ucommerce and stick it in the cloud and start sort of managing it for you, so you don't have to worry about updates and things like that. Once that's done, we'll move into cloud native, and what's happening there is you don't really see that as much. It's more like an under the covers type thing, where we evolve the platform to take advantage of the cloud even more than what we're going to do next year. It's also important to stress that as we offer a managed cloud, it is an option. It's not something you have to use. It's something you can use. So you can use the on-prem version. But it is one thing to keep in mind is that as the headless APIs become available, they will become sort of the recommended way of building a new e-commerce solution on Ucommerce, and they will roll forward, so you can't see the changes happening under the covers. So that's the roadmap for the next good years. Of course, keep in mind we are multiple years out in the future here. Things may change, but this is how we envision. This is the order in which we intend to approach it. And so let's see if there are any questions for any of that. There we go. All righty. So while you think about any questions you might have, I just want to highlight again a super important email address. It is feedback@ucommerce.net. This is where you get a hold of the product team. You can basically every Friday at 10 a.m. CET, the product team gets together to triage feedback. So if you're sort of smart about it, you can sort of write feedback right around 9:55, which means you will be top of the queue if you want us to really notice your feedback. Of course, we take great care to look at each and every piece of feedback that comes in, but just so you know, so 10 a.m. on Fridays, that's where we get together and triage and score all the feedback that we get. It's quite a fun exercise to do. So before we go, I just want to say that we have a short survey that we'd like to send to you to get your impressions on how the webinar was, if there's anything we can improve the next time around. While you do that, I just want to thank the team. I want to thank Adina and Anna, who made all this possible. They did all the heavy lifting on setting this up. They'd make the rest of us look really good. And I want to thank Urte from UX for giving us a behind-the-scenes look at the process that takes your thoughts and turn them into an actual product. And of course, Louise, who actually does the heavy lifting of turning the wonderful visuals into an actual functional product, which totally worked in the demo. So there is that too, right? So thank you very much, guys. I really appreciate your efforts. It is so wonderful to wake up every day and have an opportunity to work with you. Thanks for that. And finally, I want to thank you attendees for being here today. Thanks for spending some time with us. We do this every quarter, so there will be an update in 3 months' time. If you're not already part of our newsletter, I would suggest you sign up for that. Basically, that is your sort of place where we announce all this stuff. So thank you for joining us today, and do enjoy the rest of your day.